Let's look at how the jobs would come, because jobs come when there is consumption and hence production. So we are told the Blue Star MD B. Thiagarajan is joining us live, and very good morning to you, Mr. Thiagarajan. The fact that it's been a hot summer, unusually hot summer, would have given some tailwinds to your industry. You think, at least for you, the consumption story has been good, and going forward it's going to be good. What more the Finance Minister can do to help you?
Good morning. It's a pleasure interacting with you. As you may know, April was around 70% growth in air conditioner segment, and in May again 70%, and overall Q1 the industry would have grown more than 50%. This is coming at the back of the PLI scheme, which kick-started, while manufacturing jobs are yet to be created, at least in air conditioners and quite a few consumer durables categories. The growth is really happening, and the employment would have gone up close to around 100,000 already last year. Now, our estimate shows in about 5 years' time, by 2030, the industry will double, consumer durables industry. By 2047, we will overtake China. In that context, I am confining myself to consumer durables and electronics. We would look forward to three things. Number one is we have to build scale. For that, some more PLI schemes will be of help. Even if PLI is not there, we simply look forward to continuation of infrastructure development. And that 1 lakh crore rupees which was set aside for R&D and innovation, that is to be operationalized. And in order to grow our exports, to an extent, you have to ease the component ecosystem. And the economic survey calls for selective FDI clearance from China. It is good because in the US, we end up competing with Chinese players. So if they are following the law of the land, if they are going to invest, if they are going to do domestic value addition, it will help us to further improve our competitiveness. So consumer durable industry is looking forward to development in which the infrastructure improves so that we are able to bring down the logistics costs, R&D and innovation growth, and we are excited about what is happening already. We will move forward towards a globally competitive industry from India, which can play a significant role in exports.
Yes, Mr. Thiagarajan, good morning. This is Arnab here. I totally agree with your sentiments there. Please stay on with us. I'm also joined by Niranjan Hiranandani right now. Ajay Garg is continuing to be with us. Viewers, while we are doing this, keep one thing in mind, that this is a fantastic time. We are talking about sectors, but at the end of the day, we are all vested in the India story. IMF has upgraded its economic forecast for India in 2024. The world, growth will dip the following year. So we need to make the best when things are good. We are expected to grow at 7%, higher than April's projection of 6.8%. That is tremendous. What can we do to make sure we make the best of a good year ahead? Niranjan.
Good morning, Arnab. Glad to meet you up again. I wanted to share with you that let's hear the China story. The double-digit growth of China beyond 12% took in the years when you focused on real estate and housing.
Yes.
I think and also job employment. Two aspects of it need to be covered in this budget. Number one, we need to put in much, much more into affordable housing. It has had a setback in the last 1 year. And I think the PMAY scheme will come back. We expect a 60,000 crore commitment in this budget for affordable housing, which will boost the economy. And I think the 7 and 8% will go to 9 or 10% if they can do that. Number two, we are very, very, very short of skill sets. In my industry, when I want 100 skilled workers, I get only 20 now. If we can get the skilling done, the job and unemployment issues which are there is going to be taken care of by the growth in infrastructure and housing. I think that's a story that it needs to be repeated because the skill sets are certainly not keeping up with the times. Industry is trying its best, government is trying its best, not enough. So I think these two aspects of it, if we do, you can even think of 8-9% GDP growth in the next 1 year rather than 7 and 8% that you're talking about. Number two, the housing this year has grown by 12% growth in the last 1 year from the last year's high figure also. So I think that can take another thing which goes up. Infrastructure, not only of the national highways, but also urban infrastructure needs to be boosted still further. Yes, Mumbai has got 300 kilometers of metro going to be added in the next 2 years.
Yes.
The Cross Harbour Bridge, the coastal road, all this and more is needed. But the periphery of Mumbai, the outer segments also needs a push up along with the Adani airport, which is coming up at Navi Mumbai. I think this and more is needed in order to meet the headwinds that may happen in the international market. I think India's story itself will be a great one.
Well, that's absolutely agree. I like to look at the big picture on days like this, Niranjan, Mr. Tyagarajan. PK loves it as well. And since I have 4 such eminent panelists here, I want to go to one of my pet subjects, which also was referred to in the economic survey. Ajay, briefly, we say the US wants to de-risk from China. The US wants to decouple from China. We have seen depressed China numbers, 4.8%. We don't know if it is a continuous trend. We must understand they are not a democracy. They can do things which we cannot. You know, they can make moves which we cannot. But here also is an opportunity, and I thought it was very, very prescient of PK, before I come to Ajay, of this to be mentioned in the economic survey. You know, so we need to take advantage of that, this moment that the world is seeing vis-a-vis China.
So, you see, what China is now facing is overcapacity across all industries and massive overcapacity in real estate. There is no final demand for real estate because there's almost everybody in China owns 2 or 3 or 4 houses or apartments, and everybody wants to sell the second, third, and fourth. And therefore, you've got what China is facing is growth that cannot be sustained. You cannot really have 4 to 5% growth in China even on a sustained basis going forward.
But everybody's saying China plus one now.
So that's one. The other aspect is that China has alienated everybody else. Everybody else has come to the conclusion that China is dumping its overcapacity and has been doing this for 15 years until 5 years ago. The rest of the world was oblivious to this situation. But now we are trying to ensure, almost every country is trying to ring fence its domestic market.
But we have a unique problem. We are also their biggest import.
No, we are a huge source. See, now the interesting thing is that we have an enormous bilateral trade deficit of over $90 billion annually with China. So what the economic survey advocates is that we should, in fact, encourage Chinese companies to import substitutes, to produce more in India, rather than to simply import components.
Also, just to Mr. Tyagarajan, if you can also come into this, because the argument here is that how do you really do this? Dip into the supply chain, because that's where the key area is, where India could actually play a pivotal role.
Arnab, the China plus one, we are making an assumption that plus one is India. So
it may not.
When I talk to a European supply chain manager or an American supply chain manager, they are looking forward to a product which is of highest quality at the lowest price, which China is able to do because of domestic scale. So principle number one, domestic scale should be built. Number two, we are not at global quality standards at all. Lot more to be done for us to improve the quality standards. And the government has made certain initiatives. Now, take for example air conditioners. China's domestic market is around 85 million. They produce, including their exports, 120 million. India has crossed only 12 million. So 12 million to 140, if you are to look at it, that scale is formidable. In that event, we should innovate. And our R&D expenses as a country is less than 0.65% of GDP. So therefore, we have to focus on building domestic scale. 2, we have to improve the quality standards. 3, we have to innovate substantially. 4, we have to add substantial value addition, which is happening in some industries which received PLI scheme. Now, PLI scheme is not bad for the simple reason the incentive is not paid based on production. Incentive is paid on incremental sales. In order to earn PLI, I have to go ahead and dilute this money. Eventually, PLI money goes to the consumers. So we have to pick those sectors where, in order to beat China's competitiveness, for improving domestic value addition, we will have to bring in PLI schemes. And in air conditioner industry, it has worked, and something more can be done in order to reach that last mile of another 20% value addition will have to take place. Same way, we can identify the sectors, and I am confident that we will be able to become a formidable player replacing China. Wondering that China plus one should happen because countries do not want to do with China is incorrect. We have to deserve to export. That's all I would like to say.
Well, that's very interesting. Viewers, the economic survey this time has actually recommended that Chinese FDI is an alternative, rather than the present strategy, and that will boost our exports. China plus one is a talking point tonight. We are also getting Indian entrepreneurs, and we have the very dynamic Harsh Jain of Grow joining us today. Harsh, you founded a company, you lead a company, and you've done exceptionally well in the last 1 year. What do companies like yours, look forward to in this budget?
Yeah, thanks, Arnab. Two phenomena that's happening in the country and very important to look at is one is the advent of digital, innovations, and there's a lot more digital infrastructure that we need to invest in, whether it is about cyber security or artificial intelligence or even electric vehicle automobiles infrastructure. So this investment, I'm looking forward to some more movements happening towards this. Second is, when we see our country, there are a lot of young people now who are, India is a very young country. Now, once, few years from now, there will be issues and these all get told. Now, we should have some investment, some thought process done for incentivizing them to have retirement plans. So anything that is coming to encourage savings investments for a longer term, kind of planning how they should be in the 10 years, 20 years, that will also be a great, this will be a great help to the country.
It's very fascinating right now that we have 4 very interesting and diverse personalities. Niranjan Hiranandani, tycoon of the real estate sector. We have P.K. Basu, I consider him one of the best macroeconomic voices of the country. Mr. Tyagarajan is such an experienced gentleman. He's managing director of Blue Star. He's there joining us from CII. He understands that space. He's a doyen of Indian industry. And I have Harsh Jain. So all 4 different business individuals. Sharmila, I'd like you to take this forward with Harsh, because Harsh represents for me that whole startup space in this on this panel. And as we all know, Harsh, I think, was a part of the founding team at Flipkart. He's seen companies grow. So I'd like you to take it forward in that sense from him, what the unicorns, entrepreneurs are looking at today. Sharmila.
Yes, sir. The climate is wonderful for investments, for new businesses, startups. Clearly, the funding winter is over. Harsh, what is your take on young entrepreneurs, young Indians wanting to fund their dreams?
Yeah.
So a lot more is happening already, and we've been the beneficiary. The whole startup industry has been growing really well. One area where I would like to see our country do really well is the high-tech side. If you look at the US market and you look at the companies which are about $1 trillion, none of, all of them are very high-tech, whether it's about the silicon or it's about the big techs like Google and Apple, Meta of the world. So more plans around that will definitely help encourage entrepreneurs to take larger bets, will encourage entrepreneurs to take more interest in the high-tech industry. So I would really want to see how we focus on that. There's another initiative which is really good, which is happening on the gift city side. Last few years, there's a lot of development, but this budget should give more clarity to the techs rebates there, even the incentive plans, what kind of industry should come in and will have better prospects there, because that gives us an advantage to bring a lot of money back to the country where we can use it.
So, please go on.
I also wanted to ask you that, Indian startups have been, for a long time been dependent on international funding agents like SoftBank, etc. But we see a tendency towards self-reliance. And there is a lot of IPO movement in the country. Do you think the Indian startups can sustain through the IPO route? Is the climate good enough? What is your take?
No, extremely happy to see two trends. One is a lot of state governments have started their own, angel and startup funds where they have been encouraging early stage. And a lot of entrepreneurs who are the second, they're in second life, basically they have done their startups, they have taken exits, they have become angel investors and venture capitalists. So money has started flowing in from Indian companies to Indian startups. That's a good change, but I would still want to see a lot more happening there. Because if you want to take, there is one is the, having the money to be able to invest in startups, and second is the risk appetite. So still, there's a lot more work needs to be done on the risk appetite and taking a larger bets, encouraging a lot more on the new developments, which are very early stage, building startup ecosystem right from college, and that we have seen from schools like Stanford and all. A lot more has happened from IIT and good big engineering colleges in India also. They should continue doing that.
Absolutely. Going back to Mr. Tyagarajan, and this next 15 minutes, we are looking closely at what India Inc. wants from the budget. And Mr. Tyagarajan, S&P is giving us an upgrade after 14 years. I want to keep going back to that recurrent theme. Unfortunately, the political environment, some people think is not as stable today as it was maybe 4 months back. PK can disagree with that. But basically, the world is saying one thing about India. They are saying you have sound economic fundamentals, right? And very good growth momentum. You've taken very good decisions. In fact, Mr. Tyagarajan, I don't think it has ever been better through my journalistic career of more than 25 years. And I think S&P now saying we are actually expecting improvement beyond this for the next 2 years. So everyone on my morning panel has said continuity, continuity. We just continue the way you are. Is there anything we can do differently? Or anything we should watch out for?
Arnab, they are also saying that finally India has arrived.
Yes.
So when you visit Europe, when you visit United States, I see a distinct difference in the past 5-6 years that India has arrived and India has a role to play in the global economy. Now, I do not think we should do something differently at all. We should continue with our theme of infrastructure building, capability building, and taking us to the next leap of growth with ambitious and aspirational goals. Now, from the companies, we were not used to thinking about setting up factories which can make 2 million units. 4 years ago, if you asked me, an air conditioner factory which is going to make 5 lakh units was a big thing. Today we are talking about can we look at 2 million units, 5 million units, can we acquire 100 acres of land, where 20 acres was a big question mark 5 years ago. So there is a big mind shift change that has happened. Now, according to me, it is the last mile that we have to cross in the consumer durables sector. It is again to do with coming to terms with the scale and behave like the big players. 2, go ahead and invest in R&D and innovation. 3, learn to compete by producing products that are world-class quality. Now, I do not think the government can do anything in that except keep providing us a good infrastructure and keep providing or improving the ease of doing business in terms of import restrictions in certain components, etc. The industry ask is very, very simple. We are migrating to that we can now beat China in about 10 to 15 years' time. There is absolutely no problem.
That's incredible. And Goldman Sachs actually has forecast world economic growth by 2075. And they're saying India can pip US, Germany to that position. So yes, I think what you're saying is think big, build scale, behave like the big boys. But there are uncertainties, PK. I want to take, are there any uncertainties in that? DK Srivastav is Chief Policy Advisor at EY, Ernst & Young. Are there any uncertainties that we'd also need to factor in, Mr. Srivastav? Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Well, the main uncertainty actually emanates from the global economy. That uncertainty is likely to continue in the medium term, and therefore we have to plan very largely on domestic strategy for sustaining growth. The story that is being led through infrastructure development needs to be completed possibly from this budget, in the sense that we need higher multipliers associated with infrastructure investment.
You say only external, but what about
purpose?
What about internal challenges? I'm also looking, I know corporates won't talk about it. If I ask Niranjan, he will keep mum on it. Even Tyaga will not talk much about it. But the fact is that we have a very, very polarized polity. We are getting towards a monsoon session of Parliament, PK, and it's going to be crazy, let me tell you, and political tension in this country has never been greater. Is that a factor, or it'll be handled?
It is certainly a factor.
How?
The factor is, obviously in Parliament...
Tyagu saying on it. Tyagarajan is talking about it. No, I'm not going to miss this moment. Come back to you. Yes, please, Tyagu, coming back to you. Yeah. Is it a factor?
See, I am of the view that the labor reforms, new wage code, that has to be operationalized by the states, setting aside the political differences.
Right.
Because we are at one end talking about inclusive growth, other end we are talking about also consumption growth. Now the laws, the bills that have been passed are landmark ones, and it is time we go ahead and implement that. It is, according to me, very important. Now I'm not getting into politics. We had talked about it earlier. In e-commerce world, FDI in multi-brand retail, if it can generate employment within set rules, I think we should go ahead and implement that. And the third part is connected with one more contentious issue, not only within India, internationally. If India is going to grow, what happens to the carbon footprint? Now, the LIFE program, that is Lifestyle for Environment, and green credit schemes of Prime Minister Modi are brilliant schemes. It's path-breaking ones. Now, you can encourage consumption of environmentally sustainable products. In my case, a 5-star air conditioner, okay, you are not able to reduce the GST, but if you are going to give a green credit which can be encashed by people, it is good for the economy. So innovative schemes and bills are already in place. So these are issues without getting into political differences,
which can be sorted. No, I know you are looking at the glass as half full.
Globally competitive.
No, you are looking at the glass as half full. What I'm trying to say, however, is that, for example, Moody's, which says that you are at BA3, P3, which means the basic signal is you're stable. You're signaling stability, but it is saying that there are escalating political tensions in India. I know the checks and balances are not there. Our long-term growth trajectory could be affected by these things. Could they? Or is this an external perspective on India? We here in India know it's part of the story. We've handled instability for 25 to 30 years, but are the expectations different now?
Well, I think first of all, this government has delivered macroeconomic stability and has delivered a macroeconomic situation which positions India for much faster growth. The current account deficit was 0.7% of GDP last fiscal year. The latest quarter, there was a current account surplus. Inflation is coming down. There is a significant problem with vegetable prices and vegetable inflation. But otherwise, core inflation is at 3.1% in the last couple of months. So, macroeconomic stability is a major factor. Now, there is a difference between the opposition's approach to fiscal stance and the government stance. And this is a fiscally conservative government that is focused on bringing the fiscal deficit down. I think this year the fiscal deficit will be around 4.5% of GDP. Although the forecast in the budget will probably still be around 4.8 or something like that. We're already at 4.8%. If you look at the 12-month moving average of the fiscal deficit, already at 4.8%. So revenue is very strong. There's the extra dividend from the RBI,
but which has today.
Helped.
But PK,
so all
PK,
of this
but
helps.
PK,
now,
PK.
But if you look at what the opposition wants,
they want wealth redistribution. They want private sector reservation.
Yeah.
They want further delegation of powers to the states.
Okay, now, as far as the politics of India is concerned, for the next 5 years, we can be reasonably sure that this government is in place. But this government needs to deliver on the employment agenda above everything else. In my view, the significant factor that made a big difference in the last election is the perception that employment is not being created rapidly enough.
They need to make
and
the
there
right...
is no doubt that not just this year,
I want
but
Niranjan
I'd say
to comment
20
on
years, we have had a problem.
I think that's
with
the point. They have to balance these things out. Yeah.
And with regard
let's
to
get Niranjan in because before
Mr. Tyagarajan talked about scale in consumer durables. There's scale that can be achieved in basic labor-intensive manufacturing. I think one of the interesting things is that this government,
but you can't make labor change.
New labor laws. New labor laws were passed by Parliament.
Okay, I have to take a short break.
Ago.
Before that, I'll get
notified.
I'll get a comment from 30-second comment from Niranjan before I go into break. Niranjan.
Arnab, I think the focus which Mr. Basu talked about, employment is important. If I was the finance minister, I would focus on tourism. I would focus on textiles. I would focus on real estate. I would focus on infra and on services. But more important than all that, I would focus on skilling, I would focus on upskilling, and I would focus on reskilling. If you can do that, then with the growth of the economy, which is already there, all this will meet the employment needs of the country simultaneously. And we will be having a better employment situation along with the growth of GDP and per capita GDP growth. And this is what I would do if I was the finance minister.
Absolutely. And before I go into the break, I want to go to the visuals of the finance minister. We've got it on the Hindi channel. We can quickly get it up with the President of India. Viewers, so this is a 37-minute run-up to the presentation of the Union Budget. There the visuals are. Our production team has got it right now. And I think the stage is now set. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to just keep in mind there are sectors which can benefit, defense, infrastructure, PSUs. But the broad picture is continuity. Nirmala Sitharaman is presenting her 7th budget, 6th complete budget, 7th consecutive budget, and the important thing is she's breaking Morarji Desai's record today. So it's a historic day for her as well. I'll see you in just about 3 or 4 minutes.